Hey, what's up, everybody? Pat here, grateful recovering alcoholic and addict, just like every day. Guys, please don't forget to subscribe, leave the video a like, drop me a comment, and by all means, share it with anybody you think might get something out of it. Yes, indeed, guys. Friday, you guys know what that means. My home group, my AA group that I chair, and yeah, I was presented with my 1 year chip today, my 1 year medallion, and it was absolutely amazing. Anybody from the group, thank you all so much for making such a special day. Yeah, guys, two of my best friends in the group, Marlene and Mo, presented me with my card, my chip. A lot of the people who were members when I first joined a year ago, that are now busy during the week, and took time out of their week to show up and celebrate with me. We had a jam-packed house. Like literally, we had to break out the second stack of chairs, and that was amazing to me, guys. Like to have that many people show up, and a lot of people showing up because it was our meeting, and we have a lot of people all the time. But so many people came out of their way to come and congratulate me. John, one of the great members and one of the people I deeply, deeply respect. He was there as well as Marlene and Mo and Amy and all these people that were there the day that I walked in. A dear departed friend of our member of ours, Fred, passed away back in December, and he had left John with some money and said, when there's something worth celebrating, I want to buy lunch. And John decided today was the first day. In my honor, he went out and got pizzas, and we had a little pizza party after the meeting. And I mean, guys, like I say, join a group every week. My God, yeah, I'm starting to get choked up again talking about it. And I got to go to my NA meeting tonight and speak. I'm going to be the guest speaker tonight at 7:30. And you know what? I got choked up and actually started crying on Wednesday's video. I know it's going to happen tonight, and that's okay because that's part of the message. And it's part of the gift of God giving me feelings and allowing, and it shows me that I'm healing, and this means the world to me, and I wouldn't change a thing. I'm so honored to be me today. I'm so honored to be looked at the way that I am. The people that come up to me afterwards tell me how much they appreciate my chairing the meeting, the energy that I bring, how welcoming I make everybody feel, and like that's the things that matter to me, guys. It's not how tough I am. It's not how much money I stack in the bank. It's the relationships that I build. It's the quality of my recovery message, and then I welcome people into these meetings. That makes me proud of who I am. And guys, this all happened, as I've said 1,000 or more times. This was a direct gift of God, from God. This was an act of providence that got me to here. And that's what we're going to talk about today, guys. We're going to go with the daily reflection today because we did it during the meeting, and I absolutely really, I feel it is very appropriate for my recovery because I told you this all started for me when I said a prayer one night months before I got clean. But that is the moment that started my recovery process. Even though it took a lot of messages to get me to a meeting and to get me to a rehab, I started receiving those messages because I said a prayer one night, and that was literally an act of providence the moment I said it because it changed something in my heart. That was the first feeling I had. So, guys, an act of providence. It is truly awful to admit that, glass or drug in hand, we had warped our minds into such an obsession for destruction that only an act of providence could remove it from us. My act of providence, which is a manifestation of divine care, just so you know, my act of providence came as I experienced the total bankruptcy of active addiction. Everything meaningful in my life was gone. I said a prayer and I phoned a rehab, and from that instant, my life has never been the same. When I reflect on that very special moment, I know that God was working in my life long before I was able to accept and acknowledge spiritual concepts. In fact, the drugs were put down through this one act of providence, and my journey into sobriety began. My life continues to unfold with divine care and direction. Step 1, in which I admitted I was powerless and that my life had become unmanageable, takes on more meaning for me one day at a time in the life-saving, life-giving fellowships of recovery. And, you see why I want to do that reading, guys? That's, again, I'm blown away by the signs and synchronicities, the way these readings coincide with everything that's going on in my life at the moment. Like, I feel so plugged in to my life today, and that's amazing. That's something I never knew was possible. we'll do a little reflecting since I'm going to go and speak later tonight. One thing I notice now that I was always very susceptible to addiction, as even as a very young kid. I didn't know at the time because my father suffered from alcoholism. My mother had a closet gambling addiction, and we had a very dysfunctional household. So one thing about me, I didn't understand, and again, not faulting anybody. This is just it is what it is. We used to do a thing called the ASVAB testing, and it was basically like testing on things you'd be learning in the next few years to see what came natural to you. And it was a once a year test, and that test, no study and no preparation, I would ace. I would score off the charts, so much so that they would send a special letter home to my family saying, "Hey, like this kid's got some gifted intelligence. If he were to apply himself, he could literally be skipping grades." And I didn't know any of this until many, many years later. But my father, mad that I was not applying myself, and I don't know if I just wasn't challenged. I don't know what it was, guys. It just, I did the minimum to get by. I never did homework. I never studied. It couldn't hold my attention, so I screwed around in class, and I was a clown, and because of that, my father would constantly berate me and tell me I was half-assed, I was lazy, and because of that, guys, I didn't know they were saying this because I had this gift that I was not exploiting. But he didn't explain that to me because he was an alcoholic and he was drunk most of the time. And he probably thought I was so damn smart. Maybe I was aware of it, but I didn't know, guys. I had no sense of anything at that point. I was very young, and because of that, I felt very worthless. I was very insecure. I was full of fears. Add to that, I was from like a ritzy town, and my father provided everything we needed. We didn't, we weren't poor. We weren't, we weren't going hungry. But my father didn't allow us to spend money on flashy things. I was the second middle child, so I got everything hand me down, and I was just picked on for that. So I was bullied a lot through elementary school, and I just didn't have I didn't have a friend group. I didn't have a clique. I wasn't a jock. I wasn't a nerd. I was just someone on the fringe that never felt comfortable in my own skin and never felt like I fit in with anybody. And then the summer between 6th and 7th grade, three things happened. I found work, I found drugs, and I found fighting. My uncle taught me to fight. I got a job, and then I started smoking marijuana, and then that immediately went into mushroom and acid. Well, I found an identity. Unfortunately, it was not a good identity, and it wasn't my identity, but I found escape into that identity. I learned to fight, so I came back in my middle school years, and my first thing was like when I had the confidence, every time I saw somebody that bullied me or somebody went to bully me, I absolutely lost my shit, and I started beating the ever living hell out of these kids. And I had an iron jaw, so it's not who I am, but I was angry, right? And I just like I needed to. I felt like it was putting me on the map. If people weren't going to respect me, they were going to fear me. And then my father died. My mother was a gambling addict, so she took life insurance money and disappeared. So then I started, into the drugs and was, hiding my anger and my pain and my sorrow in the drugs. And then I got an identity that I was known as a kid that had all the drugs. And then I had, my brothers and I had the house. I don't know how we managed to keep the house with no parents, but anyway, we did. So all the drugs and all the parties came to my house. So all of a sudden, overnight, I went from this quiet, lost kid to this larger than life derelict that people either feared or wanted to get to know because that's where the parties were and the drugs were, and so I got like a mini celebrity status, and being a small town, police knew, so they were constantly trying to bust me for the drugs, and when they couldn't get me for drugs, they were arresting me for everything else because I was an animal. I was doing stupid things. Guys, through middle school and high school, I was arrested something like 27 times. I had my first OUI before I graduated high school. And then I moved away to college, and I went to a technical school out in Cleveland, in the lower side of Cleveland. I was in the ghetto, working full time, and I put myself through school, and I graduated top of my class, second out of 150 people. And I came back to Medway, and within like 2 weeks, I got another OUI, and then 6 months later, I got another OUI. So I was 19 years old, looking at my third OUI, going to jail, and you know what I mean. That snowballed, and I would work so hard to get out from under the shit I put myself into, But then I was doing all these terrible things, drinking, drugging, and just making poor decisions. So as soon as I, pull my head up there for air, I would make another mistake, get caught doing something. Boom, I got into a high-speed chase with the police. Took out power to two towns, hit a telephone pole at 150 miles an hour, made the news, made the 6 o'clock news, made the newspapers, and went to prison for 2 years, mandatory. Boom, get out of that. And I'm like, okay, I can't drink again. I never drank since that day. Been 25 years, but I went into the cocaine, and then when I ran the cocaine into the ground, I got hit by a car, and that brought in the opiates, and then it was just opiate addiction for the next, God, I don't know, that was like 2004, so I guess the last 20 years of hardcore opiate addiction. And with that came with the loss of all my tools, 4 years of homelessness. While I had the garage, I was getting arrested for driving because I was stationary at my garage, my place of business, knowing I didn't have a driver's license, but driving cars in and out of that shop all day long and getting arrested and spending anywhere from 3 to 6 months every year for like 7 years in jail for driving. Like, I didn't, and I blamed everybody outside of myself, guys, but I look back on it now and I understood that I was I know I went way over what I was talking about in the beginning, but I was that never feeling comfortable in my own skin had primed me for addiction. I didn't see it happen when it happened. And then, because of the lifestyle I continued to choose to live, I continued to compound my mistakes and just stack losses. And so many people be like, oh, you got the worst luck, you're the hardest working kid in the world. Yeah, because I wasn't, guys, if I was a hustler, if I was good at crime, I would have just been a criminal, get my drugs and party. But I'm not. I get caught for everything I do. It's a reason I've been arrested 100 times. I don't know if it's actually 100, but it's I know at one point it was over 80. It's got to be into the 90s, if not over 100. There's a reason I've been sentenced to prison 15 times. Like, I'm not good at getting away with stuff. So you had on one hand, you had this college graduate, top qualified auto and diesel mechanic that's incredibly good at anything he does. I can get any job as long as they weren't looking doing a criminal background check. I can pass an interview. I can speak well. I get along with people well. Like, I have all these beautiful qualities that should have made me a success. And yet, on the other hand, you got the drugs, the drinking, the driving without a license, the refusing to do anything legally, just making these stupid mistakes, thinking that because of what had happened to me, because of the police when I was in high school, no, because of what I did in high school. Yeah, I got some bad breaks, but I believe it was 27 times I was arrested in high school. One time I was technically not guilty of it because I was arrested for minor possession guys, I was guilty of every one, bottom line. Yes, I didn't need the attention that I was being given, but again, it's because I was 14 years old in the town of Medway, this little one street light, one red light town, and I'm dealing drugs, and I'm moving pounds of weed and pounds of mushrooms and sheets of acid, and everybody knew it. So of course there was a cop that was trying to bust me constantly and putting a lot of attention on me. But I never looked at these things. I always said it was the fault of the courts. It was the fault of this. It was the fault of that. It was the fault of this. No, it was my actions that continued to lead me down these terrible roads. And then, guys, I'm only human. By the time I get to be 50 years old, I tried a couple of times to get sober, and I failed because I didn't work a program. Like, all along, I'd been introduced to AA and NA. God, even as an adult, for the last 20 years, a couple of times, I've known full well I'd experienced meetings. I saw people getting recovery. I knew there was a better way, but I didn't think it applied to me. I had beaten myself down so far that I didn't think, even if I put in the effort, I would succeed. So even when I got into it and I was beaten into submission and I had no other choice but to surrender and go to a jail, I used to put myself in jail. This is the first time I went to rehab dirty. I'd always go and I always had warrants. I was always breaking laws. I was always a victim of myself and playing the victim card instead of looking at my actions. And I look at it now, guys, and here's the take I got out of it now. God kept me whole. I don't know any other human being that has been sentenced to prison 15 times, spent 4 years homeless on the streets, that has come back and has no animosity, has no scars, is not suffering from current PTSD, isn't carrying a chip on his shoulder, doesn't feel it's anybody's fault but his own, and then feels incredibly blessed and knows that there's nothing that can stop me from doing anything I want to do. Like, that is an act of providence. God was in my life keeping me okay, keeping me together during all my worst decisions, all my nonsense. I had taken that beautiful gift of free will and I just run it through the mud, smashed it against trees, put a couple bullet holes in it, and then kicked it in the curb. And yet God protected me, guys. I survived things that just like I have no rational explanation. And I used to say I'm like Superman. No. I have a very loving God that knew there was a purpose for me here on earth. Knew eventually I would get to an amount of suffering that I could feel I could empathize with any person on this planet, and I would turn my will over to him, and I would get clean, and I would find my purpose to use my pain to let others know. And first of all, to do that, I have to succeed. I have to thrive. I have to start living a life that makes others believe that they can too. Because, guys, it's a culmination of what I've done. The turnaround, the miraculous redemption and restoration of my health, my physical health, my mental health, my spirituality, my life, and then taking leaps of faith and boom, stepping into business. And you would think, like, guys, there's a path for everybody, but it's not necessarily going to be the one you think it is or what you think is easiest for you. 20 years ago, I would have said I'll be a mechanic all my life. That's what I went to college for. It's the only thing I know. No, I can do anything. And what makes sense for me now, and this is why I'm succeeding, guys, because it's not what I want to do. I look at what I have. I have this beautiful set of skills. I have people around me that need this work done, and they're offering to pay me to do it. So I learned to love to do what I'm doing, and suddenly I'm thriving. I'm making more money than I ever thought possible. It's giving me opportunities to actually go out and purchase property. So therefore, now I'm not only going to have security for my retirement, but I can start a family and I can leave a legacy to my kids. I can provide. Guys, that is literally an act of providence, what has happened in my life. It's why I get on this video, get on this channel and produce a video every day of the week, because I know recovery is necessary. I only get a 24-hour daily reprieve from my disease, so I've got to show up for myself, show up for my recovery, start my day in prayer. Thank God for everything He's always done for me. Not what He's done for me since I got clean, but for the fact that He was always there, always loved me, always kept me safe, didn't allow me to damage myself beyond repair. And then the minute I turned my will over to Him, He's just showered me with blessings for this entire year. And now the latest thing I've been noticing is the tribe. And that's one thing I remember hearing early in recovery. You'll find your tribe. And I've always felt so isolated. I didn't see how it could be possible. And then just today, guys, the people showing up and giving me hugs and congratulations and cards and showing up just to share the celebration with me, to let me know that they appreciate my service, and just let me know they're my friends and family. The amount of phone calls and texts I get on a weekly basis from my recovery network, my family, and my life every day, like, God has showered me with blessings I never believed that were going to be possible. And all I had to do was start believing that I'm possible. It's not impossible. I'm possible. Guys, that's a video for today. I'm going to get ready to go speak in my NA meeting. Hopefully I don't... No, actually, I'm almost guaranteed I'm going to start crying there too. It's been the week of crying, guys. I'm full of beautiful feelings and emotions, and I accept that. And I thank God for that. I thank God for everything. I thank God for all of you being here. The attention on the channel has been absolutely beautiful this last month. The metrics are way up. People are showing up. They're watching videos. They're leaving comments. I'm so incredibly grateful, and I'm hoping people are getting value out of these things, because I know I am. Guys, thank you for being here with me. Always remember, God loves you. I love you. We will see you in the next one.